What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Post-Gazette Pirates YouTube channel. Noah Hiles from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette coming to you on another Mailbag Thursday. As always, we field questions throughout the week, get everyone to email them to me or send them to me over X, and we answer them here on YouTube and, of course, also at post-gazette.com, where you can follow all of our Pirates coverage along with other Pittsburgh sports coverage and news coverage throughout the city and region. So head over there for all of that. Got a lot of good questions today. 7, as always, 5 that will be available through the written portion of this and 2 bonus ones. So let's just get into them right now. First one comes from Stephanie. She'll be batting leadoff, similar to the subject of her question. What, if anything, is keeping Oneil Cruz from being an elite baseball player? Man, that's a loaded question to start off with, because I don't think it can be defined as one thing. I know there's a narrative connected to Cruz that he's lazy. He's maybe not as engaged mentally with the game as some people would like. And I don't think that those are necessarily true. Now, does he have mental lapses? There's no denying that. But he works hard. I mean, he's not lazy. I see him. He's more often than not one of the first people on the field before every game working on different things. So he's not lazy. I do think that the mental element of being able to make quick decisions at this new position he is in is something that's currently plaguing him. That's just inexperience. I think inexperience as a whole plays a little bit of a part in Oneil Cruz's, I guess, where he currently stands. I don't want to say lack of development. I mean, he's fully developed. He's a big leaguer who hit 20-plus homers and stole 20-plus bases last year. But why isn't he elite? Yeah, I think that missing a year in 2023 plays a part in that. I think that missing a year of development in the minor leagues in 2020 might play a little bit of a part of that. I think another part of it is execution. I mean, the guy has been in a rough spot at times. I think he hasn't had a ton of lineup production. I think if he came up with a different org, if he came up with the Dodgers or the Phillies or the Orioles or a team that had a more complete lineup around him, he probably gets more pitches to see, and his numbers are a little better at the plate. Where for the majority of his time in the big leagues, he's been hitting at a premier spot in the order, and he's been one of only a few legitimate threats for opposing pitchers to worry about. So I think that plays a factor in it. He's been challenged a lot there. I think the defensive element of his game has been a challenge, moving positions now. But a lot of it also just comes down to execution. He's got to adjust. He's got to make the most of his reps, his opportunities, and he's got to learn how to be better. He's got to learn how to not make as many mistakes in the field. He's got to learn how to make adjustments at the plate, like we saw him last year in the second half against left-handed pitching. He's got to learn which pitches to really sell out for and which ones to maybe just foul off and extend an account or a count. So that's my takeaway. I think it comes down to a multitude of factors: experience, the ability to adjust, the ability to learn and take those lessons learned and apply them into in-game situations, and overall just execution. Why isn't he an elite baseball player? Because he isn't. He just isn't. He's been fine. He's been above average, but he just hasn't been an all-star talent yet, and it's on him to be better to make that happen. Juice asks, how much of a role does the analytics department have in the constant changing of the lineups and overall roster decisions? It seems that this is all being put on the manager, and I have my doubts about that. That's interesting. I think that I get the frustration, especially from like old school baseball fans, as to why you don't see a traditional 1 through 9 lineup every day. But I mean, let's look at this team, for example, as to why that hasn't been the case. One, you have platoon guys at certain positions. You have guys who just simply aren't going to play every single day. And there's a multitude of factors for that. If they're not good enough to be an everyday big leaguer, maybe they're only good enough when they're facing right-handed or left-handed pitching, or maybe they're just not durable enough. Guys like Tommy Pham and Andrew McCutchen or even Brian Hayes need a little bit of off days, downtime because of prior injuries or just their older age compared to the regular MLB player. So that plays a factor in it. Another part of it is how many people deserve to be playing every day right now on this team. It's a whole lineup full of guys hitting basically all below 200. So when it's all bad, you have to continue shaking things up. Now, granted, I'm not sitting here saying I agree with every decision that's made, but I think that plays a big part in all of this. Is if you have a team like the Phillies, who has a great leadoff hitter like Kyle Schwarber, who has great first baseman Bryce Harper, great shortstop Trey Turner, go around the lineup with Baum and Stott and all of their other guys, Marsh, Castellanos. It's easier to have consistency when you have guys that are regularly producing, that have known to produce. That's just not the reality for this team. So they've got to mix and match until they find a winning combination, and they haven't yet. Injuries have also played a factor in that. Now, as far as the analytics role in this, analytics don't make any decision. The decisions are made by the general manager or the manager. However, analytics help those two, along with everyone else who plays a factor, I guess, in the decision process, to evaluate their options. That's what the purpose of analytics, research and development, that's the purpose of all of this, is to provide the best amount of data, analysis, stats, however you want to frame it, the best information possible that when Derek Shelton's filling out his lineup card, he knows how each guy does against the pitchers that they might see today. Not just the starter, but the bullpen options that the opposing manager might have at his disposal for that particular game. He has an idea on how guys are trending versus certain pitches versus certain arm slots, how they hit in day games, night games. All of these factors are considered. And that's what the analytics department does. It comes up with all of these different metrics that give him an idea of what will be the best decisions. Now, it's not like we saw in the movie Moneyball, where the GM's forcing Art Howe to play Scott Hatteberg and he's willing to trade an all-star because of it. The manager does have the final say here. He's just going off of the information that comes from the analytics department. And if you're trusting your front office, if you trust the people who compile that data for you, then you more often than not will go with what their numbers and research show to be the most wise decision. So, hope that explains it. Eileen, one of my favorites on Twitter, asks, is there anyone at AAA besides Bubba Chandler that has a reasonable chance at being promoted? Ideally, it would be a position player who can hit and play defense. Yeah, that would be ideal, wouldn't it? I think there's a lot of arms that we'll see throughout the course of this year. We already saw Thomas Harrington. Bubba Chandler will be here at some point. Braxton Ashcraft will be here at some point. Mike Burrows will be here at some point. Johan Oviedo, whenever he starts a rehab assignment, will be here at some point. Dari Murrieta, Eddie Yeen, Tanner Rainey, I think will all be here at some point. But those are all pitchers. Position players, there are guys who maybe can help with fielding, maybe can help with hitting. I don't know if they're much better than what currently exists right now, though. I mean, Loliver Peguero is hitting the ball well to start the season, so that's good. I mean, is he better than Z Chang? Probably. Does he make this team a lot better? I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong there. Nick York, I think, is a guy we'll eventually see up here. I think he's a better offensive option than some of the infielders they're currently using. Again, Matt Gorski's a guy who I feel like we only talk about on this mailbag week to week, but he would be their best defensive option at first base and the outfield, and he consistently hits 20 home runs in the minor leagues. So maybe him, I don't know. They don't have a true difference maker, though. They don't have anyone on the Chandler level of upside or even the Thomas Harrington. They don't have any top 100 position player prospects that are going to debut this year, I don't think. So Mike wants to know, when the time comes for Chandler to move up, what do you expect the team to do? Do you expect them to move Carmen Mlodzinski back to the bullpen or attempt to utilize a 6-man rotation? I think the team doesn't know that right now because a lot can change. I mean, maybe someone gets injured. Maybe it's funny how this works because in baseball, more often than not, the answer provides itself. If Carmen Mlodzinski is struggling to retire batters the second time through moving forward, then yeah, that's the answer. Move him to the bullpen or option him to AAA to continue working on being a starter, whatever you prioritize for him, and replace him with Bubba Chandler. If Carmen's throwing the ball well, then maybe you look at Bailey Falter moving back to the bullpen. If it makes sense to carry a six-man, maybe they'll do it, depending on scheduling, when their off days are. Maybe they could go with a six-man for a couple of weeks. Maybe you do a piggyback system with Carmen and Bailey Falter, like we saw Carmen have the one start with Thomas Harrington. There are a lot of options. But again, I think we won't really know until we get to that point where it's clear that Chandler is coming. And then you can assess how things currently stand. As they stand right now, if Chandler's getting promoted this week, I think the easy option is yes, you option Shugart, move Carmen back to the bullpen as a long relief option, and then you put Bubba as that starting spot here. So got a couple questions to go. Before we do that, though, we want to hear from our friends over at Greenewalt Roofing.
Hey, Pittsburgh. When you think of great roofs, you think Greenewalt Roofing Company. With over 20 years experience, Greenewalt knows your roof is your home's first line of defense from rain, wind, snow, and ice. That's why Greenewalt Roofing's standard for perfection is so important. You can trust that their team of experienced installers will treat your property like it's their own. When it comes to roof replacements, Greenewalt Roofing is Pittsburgh's only choice. Visit greenewaltroofing.com today or call 412-314-8882 to schedule your free estimate. PA contractor number 36262.
Support for the show. Next question comes from Burger 36. This team most likely will not be in a position to buy at the trade deadline. With that being said, this regime has failed on many levels for many years now. What are the chances Bob makes sweeping changes before that point? This front office should not be in charge of another trade deadline. Well, I got bad news for you. They're going to be. You're not going to fire your GM mid-season, and if you do, you don't fire them before the draft. And the draft takes place during the All-Star break, which is in mid-July, 2 weeks maybe before the trade deadline, maybe 3. But regardless, by that point in the season, you're not going to hire a new GM, so you have to ride it out. Now, after the trade deadline, that's when you could realistically, I think, see if they're going to make a change at general manager, which I'm not suggesting they're going to do. But to answer this question, if a change at the very top of the front office is going to take place, it's going to come in August. You're doing your organization a disservice by not letting this current regime draft. And I know you can have your qualms with how the trades have unfolded and how the drafts maybe have unfolded, but you're not going to replace them between now and the draft. You're not going to find a forever replacement, a permanent replacement mid-season. And do you want an interim doing that? Because that's just someone who's worked under Cherington. So it's going to be pretty much the same strategy regardless. So no, you're not going to get, it's going to be Ben Cherington for this draft, for this trade deadline. Maybe it'll change after that. I don't know. But it's not going to change before then. I would be shocked. Now, manager, that could change. You can find an interim manager, especially if your season's pretty much over, which it could be if this continues. But for general manager, no, it's just based off of the timeline for the draft and the trade deadline. You can't make that change mid-season before those two things. Michael asks, what is going on with Kutch? He can play in the field well enough, and all of his quotes make it sound like he wants to go as much as he can. Are these maintenance decisions for him to sit half the time, or they just don't believe he's good enough to be a regular? No, I mean, they believe he's good enough to be a regular, but they're also cognizant of the fact that this guy in the last 5 years has torn his Achilles, has torn his ACL. He's 38 years old now. He hasn't played 140 games in a long time. And the last couple of seasons, he hasn't played more than 5-10 games in the field combined. So I get the idea of, hey, you've got a play who can help you win now before the season gets out of hand. I'm not saying that that's a wrong opinion to have at all. But, I mean, if you want a productive Kutch in June, July, August, September, then you need to monitor how often you're playing him now. It's a long-term approach they're taking, and you can disagree with that long-term approach. I kind of agree with the idea of, hey, if he wants to be out here, if he says he can handle this, then do it. You've got to try to win every single day at this point. You can't think about how you're going to win in August and September. If he ends up going down injured, then you got to trade to replace him. But you've got to play your best players. But that's, I think, the explanation is they're trying to still maneuver a path or develop a path that allows him to get through the grind of 162. And playing him every day in April probably isn't the best for that. But I still think, yeah, you probably got to go at this with a win every day mentality. 2 more bonus questions before we wrap it up. Milan wants to know, do you think there's any chance the Pirates let Paul Skeens hit? I know there's almost a 0% chance they sign him to a long-term deal. Do you think it makes sense to get everything out of him, especially looking at the lack of power this offense has? I would love to see Paul Skeens hit. Paul Skeens would love an opportunity to hit. 0 chances happens. You can't do that. He is the most valuable pitching asset in this sport. There's no way to even quantify his value right now. Like, they could not trade him if they wanted to because of the low salary that he makes with how many years of control connected to his contract, along with his high-level production. No one would be able to give a trade package that would equate, that would match that value financially and just production-wise. You don't risk ruining that asset through having him stand in a little square box and having his hands get near 90 to 100 mile per hour pitches. You just can't risk it. I get it. It would be intriguing. I mean, the guy also hasn't been a hitter in 3 years, so you'd have to wonder how good he actually could be now. I mean, Paul Skeens seems to be good at everything, but he's never even hit minor league pitching. So I would have to assume that major league pitching is a little bit better than the Mountain West Conference, which is the last type of pitching he's faced. Even if he can hit well, it's just not worth it. You cannot risk having Paul Skeens take an inside fastball off of his index finger, have him foul a pitch off his ankle like Nick Gonzalez did, and now he can't push off the mound. There's just have him get hurt sliding into second base. Just not worth it. He's the most valuable pitching asset in baseball. You cannot put him in a position to be injured. Final question comes from Malls, one of my favorites again on Twitter. Shout out to Malls. Is Jack Suwinski the new Cole Tucker? No matter how bad he is, he finds his way onto the lineup. And why do they try to bat him leadoff? No, he's not the next Cole Tucker because Cole Tucker never hit 26 home runs in a season. Cole Tucker was never productive. Jack Suwinski was a 2-WAR player a couple seasons ago. He's just significantly declined. And I think that's why they keep trotting him out there, is they need that player back. If they can get 2023 Jack Suwinski, this team's a lot better. They don't have a lot of 20 home run hitters. He needs to be one of them. And if not, then they're in big trouble. And it looks like they're in big trouble. Why does he keep batting leadoff? I think that Suwinski has a very similar approach to Kyle Schwarber. I'm not comparing the two. One of them is obviously a much better baseball player. But if you look at what Suwinski's 23 season looks like, low batting average, sees a lot of pitches, 20 home run pop, that's kind of a generic version of what Schwarber gives the Phillies. He gives them obviously 40 home run pop, but he bats 200, 210, 220, 221, whatever it takes. Shout out to everyone who got that reference. And he just puts the ball in the seats well, and he sees a lot of pitches. And I think that that's the connection there. I'm not saying it's the right connection, but I think that's the vision there. I personally wouldn't hit Jack leadoff, but I guess, the strategy behind at least testing that out. So that's all we got for today. Again, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already at PG Pirates, and check out all of our work at post-gazette.com. Get yourself a digital subscription. I can't recommend it enough. I've had one since before I worked here and continue to read the paper every day. You get smarter because you do it, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. So check out our work, support our work, and keep tuning into this YouTube channel. We'll have you covered for the Pittsburgh Pirates 2025 season going forward.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.